Hi, friends. Hope you all had a great break. Maybe you checked out the store or the nail catwalk. That one's my favorite. Or maybe you took a nap. That could be nice, too. Either way, we're glad to have you back for our next session.
Earlier today, we explored what's possible with Figma Make. In the next session, we're going to take it even deeper with two of our incredible design advocates who are going to share practical tips on how to get the best out of Make.
So please help us welcome Laura and Brett.
Hello, Config. It's so nice to be here. Before we get into our how to get real output out of Figma Make, I would like to get something off my chest. My social media yesterday blew up that Figma did nothing for design system folks. That's so not true. I just want to recap here. We shipped variables for motion, which are also supported in the VW3 standard. We also can work with your design system in Figma Weave, which we just saw in the deep dive before. And also, if you work with code layers or with your local code base in Make, you can use your code design system. So we're actually really thinking about the design system people a lot. And I think now I'm good and we can get started.
Okay, here we go.
So I'm Laura.
And I'm Brett.
And we recently been working a lot with code.
And I kind of admit, it feels a bit like back in the day when I was just learning how to code. It has a real kind of hacker vibe to it.
So maybe this is a little bit more appropriate.
Am I aging myself with this? Does any other millennials recognize this here? Okay, good.
But really, there's one thing we consistently hear from all of you here. Make is great, but it's not using my design system, so it's not that useful for me. We are here today to tell you that's not true. Make is generally good in designing with your design system. It just needs to know how. Not quite as simple as giving it your component library, and that's what the next 30 minutes will be about. We will teach you how to bring your design system in and how to get the output as true as possible to your design system. And before we jump in, I would like to clarify some things, Brett. What do you think?
Sure, let's do it. The first thing, we've been talking a lot over the last couple of days, not all code is the same. We have prototyping code, and that's not always the same as production code. And it's kind of based on the old mental model that code is the end state. But now, code generation can move at the speed that design workflows require, and so it's a material that we can work with. Production requires stability, integration pipelines, heavier QA. Prototyping code is the opposite. You want speed, faster build times, and fewer external dependencies. But that doesn't mean that you still can't bring your production design system in using NPM packages, which begs the question, NPM package? Well, an NPM package is basically just a versioned bundle of reusable code that you install in your app. And this is so your app can use the same buttons and the inputs and layouts and patterns. Now, for a lot of you, NPM may already be the distribution method of choice for your production design system, but if it's not, that's okay too, and we'll get to that in a bit. Next are these guys. There are now more terms than ever to describe the very similar thing. What's the difference between a library, a make kit, and a template? Well, we kind of know what a library is by now, but make kits are a code representation of your components and usage guidelines packaged up together for Make to know how to execute code-backed designs that are consistently on system. Now, make kits can use NPM packages, but they don't have to. And templates are common starting points for your team to use in new make files. When you generate a make file from a template, all that work that went into getting to that starting point is already pre-baked, saving you time and credits. And templates can use make kits, but they don't have to. For the past 6 months, we've been doing one thing. We've been thinking, talking, and dreaming in Markdown. Now, Markdown is certainly having its moment. Now, who knew this simple but powerful plain text format would become such a linchpin for these agentic workflows that we're learning? And as it turns out, it's kind of the perfect fit. It's simple, lightweight, but it's structured. And so it's easy for models to quickly understand. That's why it's one of the main languages we use to talk to the machines.
And there's one other thing we have been doing. It's working closely with a lot of our strategic account on exactly this problem. So we're bringing not just theory today, we are bringing real-world learnings from real examples. So today we're talking about two examples and two example products in the design systems. First of all, the SAP Fiori design system, and here a huge shout out to Sophia and Sophia and I want to say Brett, but it's not Brett, it's Bart. Sophia and Bart, who are running the design system team at SAP, such an amazing work. Like, we couldn't do so much rigid testing and push make forward without having your design system and the guidelines. So thanks a lot to you guys. So you might think SAP is a polished, fancy design system, and you say, of course, this will work with Make, but this is exactly why we're taking this on the stage. It's a very complex enterprise design system. Tons of guidelines, tons of components, a lot of for Make to know and to get wrong. And if we can make it work with the SAP design system, you can make it work with your design system as well. And on the other side, we have Off-Trail, a much smaller brand with a less mature design system. And we were pointing out on how to make the same process work with an app with maybe just a small Figma library, some screen designs, maybe some lightweight guidelines, but no NPM package.
And because it's 2026, remember, our goal here is prototype code in Make. And LLMs are pretty well suited for generating a valid NPM package based on your Figma library. And you can publish it directly to your private NPM registry right in Figma. So however you get your components into Make, it still needs one thing, one critical piece: rules.
I think that's my word. So for everyone who couldn't place my accent, I'm German. And if there's one thing we German love besides sausage and beers, it's rules and sticking to them. So today we're going to walk you through a few very critical things that matter, the things that you need to know to get Make using your design system and producing the output that really matches what you want. The first of those things are guidelines, and guidelines are what give Figma Make, but also any other LLM, the structure to work with. When starting in Make, we always start from a pre-prepared guidelines file, but for big enterprise design systems, that's often not enough. You got theming, dozens of components, accessibility guidelines, writing standards, and many more things, and one generic file can't carry all those things. I like to think about the very long letter I maybe get from my energy provider. I really tend to just read the first and the last paragraph, and large language models are not that different. They really like bite-sized information, just like you do. So a solid multi-file structure is really key to cohesive outcome, and in the first part, we want to show you how to structure your guidelines and how to set them up properly so you can get the most out of Make's output.
So this is an example, where is it? Right behind me. This is an example of a white label recommended structure for getting the most out of your design systems in Make. Then when we look at this structure, a lot of it will be familiar. We have our foundations, we have our components, how you compose your layout, and those are important, but actually not the parts we want to focus on today. What we do want to focus on are these high-level guidelines, discovery, and setup files. These are critical for making Make work fluently and not get overwhelmed by what you need it to do. You don't want Make to have to scan through all of these files every time it needs to make a move. We want it referencing them deliberately and only when the prompt or workflow calls for it. Let's start with the guidelines file. This is kind of the front door to the guidelines system. It gives the agent product character like density, how you use surfaces, elevation, and overall UI feel. And this shapes every design decision that follows. It also defines the required reading order for the rest of the guideline files, the key guideline files. You want this file to be high signal, so you orient the agent, set defaults, and point to the right next files. The discovery file teaches the agent how to navigate. It explains where to find component guidance, source code, stories, docs, and icon references. And it's valuable because it's not just listing folders, but it tells the agent where to look and when and how to verify its decisions. This file also helps present hallucinated components, properties, imports, and icons by making their discovery explicit. And then finally, this setup file, this is critical for making the design system actually work. You put in here required CSS imports, providers, theme setup, package usage, and build configurations, anything you need to install your package correctly. If this is skipped, components may either render incorrectly or fail at runtime. So this should be exact and explicit as well. And this is a great file to work with your dev partners and make itself, honestly. I've had plenty of times where I've had npm package installs fail, and I ask Make what happened, and we work together to figure out if I need to adjust the guidelines or if it's an npm package level adjustment. So Make is your collaborator there.
So let's jump straight into the SAP design system. Here you can see their public guidelines, and they are ginormous. But translating those human-readable guidelines into machine-readable ones is actually surprisingly easy. Honestly, my personal take, since AI entered the picture, it's the single most amazing thing for design system work. And the big part of this is like translating those guidelines into machine-readable ones. And all I actually did to turn those huge guidelines into a file for Make, I just fired up my LMM and copied the guidelines in and attached the structure that we just talked about. And that was kinda it. To make sure that AI didn't hallucinate, you can, for example, use skills. I wrote a couple to evaluate if the markdown files are created true to the injected guidelines. And for a little gut check here, this took around 42 minutes, but it should just be the starting point, right? Like same as Brett mentioned, now is the point to team up with your engineers, your PMs, and your design peers to cater those guidelines to the exact things you need. So I think now that the guidelines are done, we are ready to build.
Let's do it. Let's go to the demo. Walk all the way over to the demo. Okay. So unlock this guy here. All right. So here we have a brand new make file, and this is where we're going to start to create our make kit. The first thing I want to do is I want to go over here to this gear cog icon here, and there's a create a kit option. I'm going to create that kit. The first thing I get presented with is this modal asking me to pick a direction. We have our library styles on the right, which is going to pull styles and variables out of a Figma library. It's a great starting point. It's very lightweight, but we're a little more advanced than that, so we're going to go with the npm package route. So I'm going to click that, and we get this modal that asks us to select our npm packages. This is where we're going to find any packages that have been published to the private registry within Figma, or we can just search for public npm packages. Conveniently for us, the SAP system is available as a public npm package. So I'm going to search for it. It's UI5 here. I'm going to select all these. Like we talked about, it's a complex system, so we're going to make sure we have everything we need. And then I think I also know I want something in here. Let's grab this, make sure I have all these selected. Cool, and I'm going to hit continue. What that's going to do is that's going to edit my package.json file in my file tree here in Make. And so I go there and I can see and confirm that all of these packages have now been listed in this file as dependencies to my Make kit. So whenever my Make kit gets used, it's going to pull it down and install those packages into the Make. Now when I'm making a Make kit, Make gives me this handy checklist and kind of walks me through the next steps. And so I've already installed my packages. If we have any custom configurations to include here, this is where we might want to do that, but that's optional and we don't need that, so we're going to hit next. Next is providing our guidelines. We do have an option to generate guidelines, which could be a good route to go if you have anything in your package already that has guidelines, but we're going to add our own because, like Laura mentioned, we kind of generated those ourselves. So then that pops open the guidelines directory in the folder tree here, and you can see it defaults to this capital G guidelines markdown file. This is the default Make markdown file that it's going to go to first. So this is kind of the one that we want to keep. We also have components, setup, styles, and tokens provided. These are all kind of empty at this point with some placeholder guidance. Like Laura mentioned, we went through that process of generating our component or our guideline set already. So the cool thing is we can just kind of right-click on these, and we're just going to delete them for now because we're going to pull our own versions in. Delete that and delete that components one. Now critically, you cannot delete the guidelines file, the default capital G guidelines file. And that's important because Make needs to know that that's there. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go over to our Finder and this is my set of guidelines that Laura generated for me so kindly. I'm going to open up that guidelines file we have and copy that and just paste that into the guidelines. Now I have my guidelines file set. I'm going to pull in all these other files. What's cool is I can just select these high-level ones and drag them into the folder here and install them. And then I'm going to go maybe 2 folders at a time just to keep it scoped down a little bit in case there are any errors and I want to catch those without knowing where they came from. And then this last one here, this UI elements, is the big one, so we're going to drag that in there.
And for me, this always feels like the moment in Matrix when Neo learns Kung Fu and they just ingest the knowledge into him and bam, it's done, and Make knows Kung Fu.
Make now knows Kung Fu. Okay, so those are our guidelines set. I'm going to hit next. And there we are. Okay, so we've got our packages in there, we've got our guidelines in there, we're ready to publish, right?
I don't know.
Maybe not. We could publish and we can just kind of YOLO it, but we're going to we kind of want to test it out a little bit, right? So right here in the make kit, we can start testing the kit. And what you want to do, a good kind of best practice that Laura and I found is you can just say, make me a button and see if it pulls in the button, but that's a pretty easy thing to get right maybe. So I actually have this prompt prepared here to test the design system. And what you want to do is you want to have some level of robust prompt to kind of try and generate a screen that makes sense for your product. It doesn't have to be overly complex. We're not looking for complete accuracy to your actual product experience, but we need something to really give the kit a test here. So I'm going to go back over, and I'm going to paste that into my prompt here, and I'm going to set make to go. And so now it's going to do its thing. It's going to think, it's going to reference those guidelines, it's going to read through, and it's going to look at those NPM packages and do its best there. And so once this outputs, we'll want to kind of just check and verify that it's using components correctly the best we know. A good way to actually help verify that is actually a skill. And so we actually prepared this skill for this specific design system, and I'm going to go ahead and use it. So we go to our plus menu down here and go to skills, and I'm going to add this skill. You can either start from scratch when adding a skill and give it a name, a description, and the instructions you want, but we actually already have one prepared. So I'm going to upload this file here. I have this Fiori compliance check markdown file skill. I'm going to open that up. And looks like I already have it in there, so I'll give it a 2 just so it doesn't allows me to install it. And what it has is instructions on how Make will, or the agent will go through my output and check all of the components that it generated and verify that it used them correctly and that they were composed with the right properties and everything was all good. So I'm going to click add here. Now we've added that skill. And so this is still running, but now that we have the ability to queue up prompts in Make, I'm just going to evoke that skill right here, go with Fiori compliance check, and hit enter. And now that's queued up. So now I can just kind of let this run. Make's going to do its thing. It's going to generate this test output. And then once it completes that, it will automatically run this skill and verify against it. I'm going to fast forward to a completed version of this for the sake of time. And you can see that the output is looking pretty good. I think, this is the SAP design system. It looks on system. We have up here that if I scroll up, the skill ran, and this is the output that we've defined in the skill where it kind of checks all of these components and gives them a rating. It looks like there's a little discrepancy there, but the skill actually outputs for us a score out of 5. And so this gives 4.7 out of 5. Our published threshold based on our skill is 3.8. This is feeling pretty good. So you can, at this point, you can kind of work with Make and ask to adjust the guidelines or go into your guidelines, start making adjustments, see if you can get it closer to 5 out of 5 if you'd like. But we can also go to the point and edit tool and start hovering over these and see purple outlines. We love seeing purple outlines. That's components, right? All right. So I'm going to also click on this and maybe jump over to the code here and just verify. We can see that this is actually using the object page section here, not just some random div. So this is looking pretty good. So I'm feeling good about this. Let's publish.
No, not publish. I think we can make something better with the file. Do we want that people just look on this random page design?
Good point, good point. Okay, so a little extra polish before we publish. We could publish this out, but what we really want is some nice experience. So when our teammate opens up the Make kit, they can really kind of see what's going on and see what they have available to them. So I also have this component showcase prompt. Very simple, build an organized component showcase to preview all the components in SAP UI5 design system. I'm going to go here, and I'm just going to set this prompt to go. And so that's going to kind of regenerate the starting screen to go from this example UI to a component showcase. And I'll let that run, but I'm going to fast forward for the sake of time. And here we are, and here we have this prompt that I ran, and now we have a nice showcase listing all the components in the design system, well organized, and all the interactivity is there so I can test these out and make sure that everything is feeling good. And now we're looking pretty good. And what's cool, it's actually using the design system and the components to generate this showcase, further proof that it's using the components. So now I'm ready to publish out.
Now you can publish.
Okay, so now we're going to publish our kit by going up to this Publish Kit button. And we can give it a name, we give it a thumbnail, and there are some advanced settings here where we can version it because we're going to talk about kind of rollout flow a little bit later, but we would go ahead and publish that, and then we'd be ready to use it in our makes.
Amazing. Can I give you?
Sure.
Great. So we would already be at a very good point now, and we could just use this make kit in a new make file if you want to create something completely new that is not existing in your app by now. But we already earlier talked about templates, and I think for like a large-scale organization like SAP, it would be good to have some pre-prepared templates. So let's build one together. And before we jump in, a little bit more context to the SAP design system. So the template we're building today is based on their dynamic page layout. The dynamic page layout is like a layout that basically all the SAP pages are based on. And inside of this dynamic page layout, SAP has something that is called floor plans. Maybe you don't have floor plans in your system, but maybe you have something that calls page templates or pattern, right? It's something like nearly every design system had. I had it in my previous ones, and it's just like a handy thing for people in Figma to reuse the whole interface just by pulling it into the file. So we're using this now to create the page template. So let's jump over to make. Same as Brett, I will go over the settings wheel and go in the code and editor. And here in the bottom corner, I can attach the SAP Make Kit that Brett just had built for us. There we go. Perfect, so the Make Kit is in, and I also prepared a prompt, a very long and very detailed one, as you can see here.
Small prompt.
Small prompt, yeah, very small prompt. Can I? Perfect. And we go back to Make, put the prompt in here, and let the machine run. And while the machine is running, I'm talking a little bit about prompt, right? So this is really a prompt that is made for an app scaffolding, and it's including a flow, all the interactions that the components come with in the SAP design system. So it really should bring you like a solid base of all interactions, and it should just use the NPM package and the guidelines that we're using, and like it's really like trimmed to like not using anything that is like not belonging to the design system. As this will take a while because it's a very long prompt, let's go to my first run. And here you can see I add a prompt and it's generating me a page. It's all coherent to the SAP design system. It's using their components. It has some basic interactions. If I go to the edit panel, you can see there's a calendar. It's using the calendar component. I didn't put any design reference in here. I think this is something very important to call out here. Often we say use a design attachment to build and make. But I believe for like building really rigid templates for big design systems, it's better to work just with a prompt to really kind of like hard test your design system and if the make kit is like set up in a solid way. Okay, let's switch back to slides for a second. So I think we already had a very good point with generating stable output, but I really would like to take it a step further. So there are two more things I would like to cover. So let's see how much further we can go down the design system rabbit hole. So there are two things I would like to talk about. And the first thing is the onboarding screen. And here a quick shout out to Atlassian. I learned a lot from overlay is something that everyone will see in the first time they open your template. And it kind of explains what the template is about, what they are allowed to change, and it maybe gives already like a little hint to what other resources we have in this template. And this will help to really onboard everyone to this template, no matter if they're a designer, an engineer, or a PM, or maybe even someone from HR. So very useful. And I can close that. And then the next thing I would like to talk about is what you can see on the right. It's presets and recipes. So for the SAP template, we built like a panel with like pre-baked prompts. So whomever's working with this template can change the whole interface within one click and one prompt. So no manual adjustment. You just let the AI do its work and it will pull the right components and switch in between the different floor plans or see the different themes seamlessly. Yeah, and let's switch back to slides for a second so I can show you how you set up those things. Perfect. So you might be asking how I created those panels and the overlay and all those prompts. Honestly, kind of against the same workflow as we had with our guidelines. So I didn't done it by hand. I had a large language model assisting me through the process. I took all the floor plans and the prompts that I wanted to have and the NPM package, same as the guidelines I have installed. And I also took AI to assist me to generate the TSX file for the overlay itself. And I'm sure everyone who's running a design system has the same foundations to their hand to create those helpers with the extra power of AI. Something that is really important with presets is where you add them in the tree. Different files belong in different folders, and that makes them easier for the large language model to consume. Now, I don't move them into the guideline folder as we did before. This is very important. We move them into the app file because I want the dialogue and the presets to be a part of the template. The dialogue design needs to live in the same space where the prompts are of the floor plans, so those files belong into the right folders. And I let Figma Make do its magic and switch over to the View tab and see how the interface is changing and incorporating the prompts that we saw earlier. Back to the demo. Perfect. So I think we at a very good place. We have onboarding, we have the presets, and after some like rigid testing, using a couple of prompts that I have in the presets, I would again, same as Brett did, run the skill to see if everything is design system coherent, and then I would be ready to publish. But this really feels like it could need like a governance process, maybe. Brett, could we switch back to slides?
Let's go back to slides. So that's a lot of upfront work, right? And I kind of want to recap a little bit and talk about what kind of rollout process might look like for something like this. So historically, we've had two primary artifacts for design. We've had our library and we've had our documentation. And documentation now includes these guidelines and skill files that we can deliver with our design system to make sure that everything executes on system. And these are things that we can use to teach agents how to use our system like humans. Now, those elements can now feed into make kits as a governed artifact, unlocking your team's ability to design in code using make. And templates provide realistic starting points for these rapid ideation. Now, common with all these pieces is that they're only as good as the design workflows that they support. And if they don't give your team what they need to move with speed and consistency, then they're not doing their job. And so that ongoing feedback loop across all of these buckets is critical. You want to test early and often with your team to ensure the quality and the value of these pieces. To do that, pushing updates is kind of an important part of that workflow, right? You need to make sure that you can patch things and make updates and get them all to your team. So to note, importantly, updates to kits can be pushed down to consuming files. That means any changes to your NPM packages and guidelines can be made in your make kit, and those will update when published and update any template or make file that uses them. So by getting these things in place, you're now enabling Make to prototype in code and on system. In other words, to stay with our 90s hacker movie theme, you know Kung Fu.
And very important, this isn't about enabling just you. It's seeing these foundations and you do them, right? That doesn't make you Neo, but it allows you to enable your full team. You will write the programs and they learn Kung Fu. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.